Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. It's great to see you. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for your patience. I had a really long weekend and then I just needed like a day to recover from that. So thank you for waiting. This is a pick a card reading. There's no overall theme for this one, although we are in Mercury Retrograde energy at the moment. So that's sort of like an overall theme, I guess, of just like maybe some things that are coming back around that you may need to be aware of. So just keeping that in mind. But I didn't purposely set that as an intention. It's just sort of something that came out when I was doing the 3 readings. So as usual, I have 3 cards. You'll find the timestamps in the description box below. So for group 1, we have the horse. For group 2, the earthworm. And for group 3, we have the fish. So I'll hold up all 3 so you can compare, and you'll find the timestamps in the description box below. Hi group 1. Let's get started with your reading. So we'll get into the cards in just a second. I'm using so many different decks today. It's just how it wanted to come through. But a couple of the cards are reminding me of a passage in this book, The Warrior of the Light, which I bring up a lot on this channel, but I'll read it. It's very short. So it says, the warrior of the light knows that it is impossible to live in a state of complete relaxation. He has learned from the archer that in order to shoot his arrow any distance, he must hold the bow taut. He has learned from the stars that only an inner explosion allows them to shine. The warrior notices that when a horse is about to jump over a fence, it tenses all its muscles. But he never confuses tension with anxiety. And the reason why I was being reminded of that passage is because you have here at the bottom of the deck the horse and anxiety. So it could be something here where it's like, I feel like somebody is like about to take a jump or take like a leap of faith in some way, but that perhaps it feels like there's anxiety about it, or that anxiety is being stirred up in some way. Or that someone's hesitating because they feel anxious about something, which is totally normal. I feel like this is part of the process as well, because again, if it feels like anxiety and not tension, like, because in that passage, like not confusing anxiety and tension and being able to tell the difference between those two, because the anxiety card is coming out, it might be anxiety at this point. But that perhaps you're being prepared for taking a leap of faith perhaps in the future, but there may be sort of like, what I'm seeing here is that there's kind of like a process of purification is kind of how it's coming through, because at the bottom of these decks, you have here the 3 of Swords coming out twice, the Heartbroken and the 3 of Swords. So I feel like this is the energy that's needing to be cleared. Something from the past that is coming through as like a heartbreak or pain or emotional hurt in some way from the past is kind of how this is feeling. But so that's the overall context. But you have here the first card is peace, right? Which is like the energy of like perhaps being in a state of peace or trying to preserve your peace is how this is coming through, especially because there's anxiety as the context. This is at the bottom of the deck. So I feel like maybe there's an energy here of like somebody wanting to preserve their peace or be in a state of peace or something like that, but there may be something calling you to act or move. But at the moment, because perhaps there's somebody trying to preserve their peace, the movement's not happening, or there's like a hesitation or a stop or a pause because it feels like anxiety. So that's sort of how it's coming through. It's really interesting. These cards that are coming out underneath that, the archetypes, you have here the castle and the Eros card, which is really interesting because I feel like this Castle card is representing the sort of like being in a state of peace or relaxation, of like being really stable, being perhaps protected in whatever way, or like you're protecting your peace, or your abundance or your stability or whatever this is. But it's coming through with an energy of like protecting perhaps some aspect of stability could be preventing you from sort of like running free, quote unquote, right? Here with the horse, like breaking out of some sort of boundary or some sort of stable structure in some way. Like it's coming through as like wanting to run free, especially with the Eros card, because this card talks about like what is it that you desire. Something that's like very passionate or exciting in some way, or very attractive is how it was kind of coming through. Because with the animal cards you have coming out here, you have here the vulture and the bear. So I feel like this vulture card is talking about like you may be experiencing something where like having to like purify or clean out something within your energy that perhaps has to do with this past heartbreak is kind of how it's coming through. Whatever that is for you, however that relates to you, it's kind of like just something that's like really old that perhaps is taking up space or just needs to be cleaned out and purified before making the jump into whatever the new thing is that could be causing anxiety at this point. I feel like because it's not time yet, but that you're being prepared for when it is time. Especially with the bear coming out next, because I feel like you already know what this is, or that there's been sort of like an awakening, quote unquote, process of like seeing something that is calling you, that is very attractive in some way, or that is something that you desire, or is very exciting, or whatever. That it is sort of causing this sort of awakening energy, but just like a bear coming out of hibernation, it's kind of like it takes a little bit of time before the energy can move forward quickly. It's like the beginning processes are a bit clumsy maybe, or just like maybe not clumsy, but it just takes a little bit of momentum to build is kind of how it's coming through here. But I feel like there's someone here because it's coming through with the starfish coming out next. Again, this is, I feel like, the new thing, whatever that is for you, that is being shown to you, or that you're being called towards, or that is like, it's coming through as being like very attractive in whatever way that is to you. But there was a question that was being asked with this card, which was, am I being swayed by outward appearances, or like, am I being swayed by something that is beautiful, but perhaps is not, you know, whatever that is. It's like kind of like, I feel like maybe somebody's worried about a deception of some, or like, that might be too strong of a word, but like, beautiful and alluring and attractive, but not a match, or whatever. However you want to phrase that. Like perhaps shallow in some way. Like it's not meaningful or substantial in any way. I feel like that's a worry though. That's what's causing anxiety, is like, am I being swayed by outward appearances? Am I being swayed by something that's like really beautiful, or that's like really attractive, and it's gonna perhaps end up being something that's like a negative experience, or it's gonna end up in heartbreak, or whatever, right? Like that could be a worry. I feel like though there is kind of like this energy here of like needing to, I feel like somebody is taking sort of time to consider that, is kind of how it's coming through. Especially here you have these cards. So you have the God of Dreams and the Beginning, and then the Animal. Because again, there's an energy here of like something about like wanting to run free, or that they're like, I feel like there's someone who's worried about like, because with the Animal, I was seeing here like these sort of spirals, and the first tarot card you have out is the Page of Voices, which is coming through with this sort of spiraling energy, like so perhaps feeling like dizzy, or like perhaps it's just somebody who's like very attractive, and like there's almost like feeling like a spell has been cast in some way. It's that feeling. I'm not saying that that's what's happening. But again, because the Hermit card's coming out next, I feel like there's somebody here who's sort of like in perhaps solitariness or quiet contemplation of like whether or not this is some sort of like, I don't want to use the word superficial, but that's what's coming through, like being swayed by something that's very attractive. I'm just going to leave it like that. But what's coming out next, though, interestingly, after the Hermit card, you have here the Six of Emotions and the Two of Swords. So the Six of Emotions, again, so this one talks to me about the past, specifically about like sort of like different, perhaps getting a different perspective on something from the past. With the Two Voices coming out next, though, it may be causing like being pulled in two directions is kind of how it's coming through. Like perhaps there's one aspect that really wants to move towards this, but then there's something from the past, this past heartbreak, that is pulling, like causing hesitation or that kind of thing. Especially with the Starfish. It's kind of coming through with this energy of like somebody being hurt by a starfish energy from the past. And so perhaps that heartbreak is sort of shaping the decisions moving forward. It's like, I don't want to make the same mistake that I made in the past. Could be something like that. But what you have coming out next, though, after the Two of Swords, like I feel like this is sort of an energy that's going through a cleansing process or a purification process, or like having to clear out some sort of past heartbreak energy. And with the Strength card coming out next, which I love to see, because the Strength card to me is an energy of like mastery over self, and especially taking into consideration one's quote unquote animal nature or that kind of energy. Because to me, like, our physical bodies and our vessels are part of our spirituality. So like our physical nature is something that should be integrated with our spiritual experience, not something that should be ignored or sort of put aside or that kind of thing. So the Strength card to me represents like being able to have a harmonious relationship within your physical body and like your physical desires and like your physical needs as well. Like that's equally important, is how it's coming through here. So maybe there's someone here who's not trusting that aspect of themselves, like the physical desire part of it. Maybe it's like perhaps that led to a heartbreak in the past, right? Like somebody who perhaps only chose something or whatever because of a physical desire rather than sort of like a fully integrated experience, if that makes sense, here with the Strength card. Anyways, so what's coming out next here, though, you have here the moon and the 10 of Wands, because I feel like so the moon, this one to me talks about like not being unsure about what you want, or being unsure about how you feel about something. It could be that, like being unsure about how you feel about something. Because the next card is the 10 of inspiration. So this card to me talks about like maybe there's someone here who's like following quote unquote a trend, or not, maybe not a trend, but like following a group or something, which may have to do with like how you feel about a certain topic or whatever, how you feel about this, whatever this starfish energy is to you. There may be sort of like a group consensus on this topic. But I feel like with this energy here, it talks to me about like trying to be part of the group, but it's like clearly you don't belong in this group, or that you're meant to be doing something else, but or meant to be going off on your own, or meant to be doing something else, but you're staying within this group. That's how it's been coming through. And so it's like something here about like not being sure about that, like because perhaps not being sure about how you feel, because maybe there's something here about like wanting to think the same or feel the same as the group does, but maybe you feel differently about something. Anyways, the Hierophant's coming out next. This one talks about like a spiritual journey of some sort. So it could be something to do with like spirituality, or going on just like some sort of inner quest to connect with what it is that you desire, or what's the right course for you, or what's the right decision, or getting some sort of like spiritual learning about something, or learning about something, perhaps learning about what it is that you desire here with the moon. It was kind of coming through as being sort of like, especially at the 10 of inspiration and like the 6 of cups energy, where it's like something where it's like you see something that you desire or that's very attractive to you in some way, but it's kind of like maybe somebody from the past said something to you, or like I don't know, perhaps told you something like, oh, like be careful of starfishes because starfishes sting, or starfishes like whatever, only want whatever, or like they like, I hope you're understanding what I'm getting at. It's like kind of like somebody told you or like gave you a warning about this energy, like don't fall victim to that kind of whatever, something like that. I don't know. And it's kind of coming through, though, as being sort of like a 6 of materials energy. So this is a 6 of pentacles, but it talks to me about like an equal give and take, but that there's something like really beautiful that wants to be created within this dynamic, or whatever this is for you. Like if it's a new opportunity, or it's like something that is going to be created in this dynamic. I feel like, though, there's perhaps one or both or whatever. There's an energy here of like a hesitation perhaps, or like a stopping kind of energy, or like an anxiety about moving towards this because how do I phrase that? Someone's concerned that it's like perhaps too good to be true, or something like that. Okay, group 1. I'm gonna end it there. If this reading resonated with you, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. It helps so much. If you're interested in a personal reading, check the description box for the link. That's it from me. Thank you for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. Hi, group 2. Welcome to your reading. So let's get started here. We're going to start off with the bottom of the deck. You have here the Queen of Inspiration and the Justice card. So the Justice card in this deck talks to me about like when you make a decision to do something, or you make a choice, or you go down a particular path, all of this information starts to open up to you, right? Like because you've made a decision to move in a particular direction, you get more information. You get more clarity about something. Especially with the Queen of Inspiration, this talks about receiving inspiration of some sort. It could be in terms of like something that you want to create. Doesn't have to be though, but it is certainly some sort of process is kind of how it's coming through. It feels kind of like you're at the beginning of a process is how that feels. With the Faith card coming out at the bottom of this deck, which talks to me about like a process, like a cycle. So it could be that you're beginning some sort of new cycle, and to have faith in the process, especially in terms of like taking things sort of like a step at a time and like trusting the process, because it's kind of like there may be parts of the process where it doesn't look like you are achieving something, or that it doesn't look like the end goal, or that the outcome or your goals or whatever it is you're working towards, not all parts of the process are going to look like progress is how that's coming through. And so that's why it requires faith, right? There's something here as well about the Earthworm, which is at the bottom of the deck. This card is about like it talks about the beginning, like learning something new, being sort of a beginner at something, whatever that is. I was feeling kind of like this energy of frustration or overwhelm about being in this position, because it's kind of like with some of the other cards coming out with the tarot cards, you have here the Ten of Swords and the Four of Cups. So this Ten of Swords is not really a traditional Ten of Swords. It's more so talking to me about like 10 being sort of like the it's almost coming through as being more like a 10 of Wands energy, where like feeling really overwhelmed or perhaps even burdened by the amount of information or newness that this experience is bringing. Because it's kind of, especially if it's something like you're learning something new, like learning a new thing or whatever, that at the beginning it can feel kind of overwhelming, because it feels like there's so much that you don't know about whatever this is. And so that could be overwhelming, especially with the Four of Cups coming out next. This card talks about like feeling almost dissatisfied with where you are or what you have, because it's like, especially if you're seeing somebody else who's at like more of a mastery level, it's like wanting to be at that stage when it's like you're at the beginning, right? So it could be something like that, where it's like feeling dissatisfied with where you are because perhaps there are others who have more experience or more mastery or whatever. Especially with what it is that's like coming through, because it's kind of like, I feel like there's something here about like this energy here of being a beginner at something is really important, because it comes through with this energy of like beginners often have really key insights into something, like a particular situation, or like a new perspective, or like something that like perhaps you're bringing something new to a particular field that hasn't been explored, or like because, so it could be something like somebody's trying to solve a problem and they bring you into the field, even though you're new or less experienced or have less whatever knowledge or mastery over that topic, but it's kind of like that's exactly what's needed, is how that's feeling to me. Because your energy overall, you have here the sweetness card. Okay, so this is, okay, so you have 3 animal cards here. You have here the eagle and the owl, and then the bee. So they're all air cards, right? Which is really interesting because it's kind of coming through as like information or knowledge, right? Like what it is that you know, quote unquote. And I feel like so it kind of feels like you're being brought into a group here with the bee, because this talks about teamwork and community, but because it's like with the sweetness, right? I feel like this is your energy compared to these two. Compared to these two, again, but I feel like it's kind of like, so someone might be feeling dissatisfaction because they're comparing themselves to these two, if that makes sense. Compared to these two, quote unquote, I feel like somebody is feeling like a newbie or like a beginner at something with the earthworm. And it's kind of like this is exactly what's needed, is how it's coming through. Because if you look at this eagle, so this one talks about mastery over air and fire, right? So this person, or if this is a person, it could be like, or it could represent sort of an environment. Like if you're starting a new job, for example, this is sort of like the established, whatever, people who have been there longer, or however this resonates for you. But it feels like here, so they're at some sort of mastery level, but I feel like here with the eagle, there's some sort of like, problem, or like they're seeking the solution for something, and it's kind of like that's what you're bringing, because I'm seeing this as being sort of like you at the center of the solution to what because I sometimes see this card as being like finding the solution to some sort of problem, like illumination, clarity. It also talks about transformation of some sort of karma, so it's kind of like something that you're bringing into this environment or situation, even though you might feel like you have quote unquote less to contribute, or that you're a beginner at something, or that whatever. Could be some form of like imposter syndrome, right? Like not feeling like you know enough, or like faking it till you make it, all of that. But I feel like it's exactly what it is that's needed in this situation, because it's like there's something about the fact that you don't know all of the information that helps bring in the solution. Anyways, because what comes out after these two cards with sort of like, these are tough energies. You have here the Muse of materials, which is sort of like, this is the king of materials in this deck, but it talks to me about like stepping into a new experience in a very physical way. Especially with these two archetype cards, you have the Pilgrim and the Vow. So the Pilgrim talks about some sort of journey, some sort of discovery being made, but also specifically talking about apprenticeship, like learning something. So it could be some sort of discovery through learning. And that it's kind of coming through as like making a commitment to it with the vow, like, because I feel like there's someone who's almost like feeling frustrated or overwhelmed by how much they don't know about a particular topic or about a particular field, and that it's causing overwhelm or dissatisfaction within self, perhaps because someone's comparing themselves to somebody else who has more experience or more mastery or whatever. But it's like, if you make the commitment to stay on this path, to have faith in the process. It's got like, I'm seeing this as a progression where it's like you will reach this level of mastery that you're working towards. It's kind of like once you make the commitment, it just unfolds naturally. It's a step-by-step process though. Not every step is going to be masterful, but it is necessary in order to reach the final outcome or goal or whatever it is. Because there's something here also. So you have here the portal for the patterns, which talks to me about repetition, like repeating something, doing something over and over again. And through that process, there's growth and learning and discovery. Even if you are repeating something over and over again, it's kind of like a practice energy, like practice makes perfect, or perhaps there is sort of like an established set of guidelines or something that you can follow, like a pattern that will help you create what it is that you're creating. And I feel like there's also something here about like, if you have a pattern to follow, right? If there's like a set of guidelines or something that you can follow, within that structure, there is stuff to explore still, right? So it could be something like maybe like following a pattern or following guidelines or perhaps rules or whatever actually allows for you to grow and explore and learn within those rules. Because what's coming out next here, you have the Page of Inspiration and the Knight of Cups, which is such a lovely combination because it's coming from like this energy, which is kind of like an overwhelm, dissatisfaction, feeling whatever, uninspired, to being really inspired by something here at the Page of Inspiration. This card talks about sort of like creating from a sense of play and joy, not from any sort of like obligation or having to accomplish anything. It's kind of just like, this is just sort of like a playful, just doing something because it's fun. I feel like that's sort of the energy or the attitude that perhaps there will be a shift into, like, instead of feeling overwhelmed by the amount of whatever there is to do, it's kind of like finding playfulness and sweetness in this. And with the Knight of Cups here, I feel like there's like, so this card talks to me about like a lot of momentum that happens because you love something or because of love, right? Like from happiness and joy. So it could be something like learning happens best when you're having fun, right? When it's something that is fun and interesting and like you want to learn more about it. So I feel like this is something that is like that, right? Like something that you're wanting to learn because it's something that you love or that brings happiness and joy, creativity, all of that. But that at the beginning, it might feel overwhelming. So it's kind of like at this point, it might be sort of like time, like taking a pause or taking a moment to like make a commitment to yourself to like follow through on something, even if it's difficult or even if there's like challenges or whatever, and try and look at it with a lens of like exploration or learning things or and just an energy of sweetness, right? An energy of like you're doing this because it's fun, not because it's like something that you have to accomplish or that like whatever. That kind of energy. Just something that's like out of exploration and discovery. Okay. Okay, what you have here next is the Star. So I feel like this is talking about like a dream that you want to create a dream that you want to create, or having a vision for whatever this is. I feel like, though, that this is going to be because I feel like on some level, I feel like somebody here is feeling like they're a beginner at something, or that they don't know enough, or something like that. But in reality, I feel like this person is kind of like, whoever this is like is actually part of, like, these are all different aspects of self. So this is now looking to me like a mother maiden crone energy. Like different levels of experience. But that all of these levels of experience are the same path, if that makes sense. All these different levels of experience are the same path. So if you're at the beginning of this path, you will absolutely, inevitably get to this ego stage as long as you keep moving forward, right? So it's kind of like coming through as being like your dream is inevitable. It's like going to happen as long as you commit to it. But I feel like there's something here about like because what's coming out next is the Eight of Materials, because this card talks to me about like seeing something, or like, because it could be something like you're witnessing somebody else do something or accomplish something, or like this is like the vision that you have, but right now it feels kind of like unmanageable or too much, or perhaps like a lot of work, or just like it feels kind of like accomplishing something that's like impossible, quote unquote. I'm putting that in quotes. I feel like there's something here about like having a vision, but for right now it feels kind of like you're not quite at the stage where that would be possible yet. That's the thing. It's a yet energy. It's yet to happen. But as long as you commit to it and keep going and like trust the process, it's inevitable is what's coming through here. You have here the World and the Queen of Inspiration next. I feel like this is talking about like having to stay focused on something. With the World Cosmos, this to me talks about like manifesting a vision is kind of how that's coming through. Like envisioning what it is that you want to create. With the Queen of Voices here, this kind of talks to me about like having to tune out energies around you, or like having to maintain a really clear focus or have discernment, even though there's like a lot of perhaps conflicting or noisy, quote unquote, or disruptive perhaps energies around you. There's a lot of air energies coming through here, which I feel like is, so tons of Aquarius energy, the Star, and the Eagle. You also have Libra energy here with the Owl and the Queen of Swords. So I feel like this is kind of coming through as being sort of like, it is coming through with like knowledge and learning. So I feel like whatever this journey is for you, you're learning something new. And it's kind of like just having to work through the energy or the feeling of, or the thoughts, right? The mindset perhaps that you have about a particular task or goal, or whether or not you feel that that's possible. And I feel like what it's saying is that like, just focus on the sweetness is kind of how it's coming through, like very simple pleasures or joy, like why it is that you do this, like what's the motivating energy, like what brings you happiness. I also want to say here with the bee that there is a lot of support around you, or that there is an energy here of support coming in with the Knight of Cups. There's an energy that is wanting to support you and trying to say that, like, everyone has been a beginner at something at some point in their life. It's just part of the process. So I'm going to leave it there. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. It helps so much. If you're interested in a personal reading, you can find the link in the description box. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. Hi group 3, welcome to your reading. It's not an easy one today, just for me personally to get through it. For some reason, there's just been a lot of interruptions for this reading. I feel like it's part of the energy as well. Okay, so anyways, bottom of the deck energy, we have Comfort, which is appropriate because the first card in your spread today is the Pain card. So both of these energies go together, because it's kind of coming through as being sort of like, through pain we seek comfort. So that's the overall context. I feel like though there's an opportunity here because with the theme of Mercury retrograde, it's coming through with an energy of like there may be some sort of past pain that is coming back around in some way. Whatever that is for you. There's so much here. There's so much energy here, and I'm just being very tender with it because I feel like there's something here about like it's been sort of a long journey here at the Warrior, or that it's like a battle that you've been fighting for a while or something like that. It could have to do with addiction in some way, or well, especially because it's coming through with like the comfort and the pain. So just a warning, if this is not your reading, don't take it on. But it's kind of just coming through with being sort of like, I feel like there's an opportunity for something to change or to release something perhaps really painful. At the bottom of this deck, you have here the Death card, Wheel of Fortune, Tower, the Fool, and then underneath that the Ace of Cups, right? So it's kind of coming through as being sort of like, the first 3 cards are kind of like the difficulty, right? So there may be something coming back around that caused pain in the past, but there's an opportunity to release that in some way, or to integrate the difficulty and then have a new beginning here with the Fool and the Ace of Cups. Okay, because at the bottom of this deck you have here the Fish, which so I feel like this here is representing the pain, because it kind of feels like there's something about like releasing whatever the pain is. And again, it feels like something that's past. So it's like revisiting a past pain in some way. The cards for the animals that are coming through here, you have the Peacock and the Oyster. So the Peacock card talks about from this deck, well, both of these cards today are talking about an inner beauty, or an inner treasure. The Peacock talks about assimilating, being able to assimilate and integrate all the experiences that we go through, especially experiences that are painful, because pain is just sort of like a normal and inevitable part of being alive, in my opinion. And so you can't avoid it. The only thing you can really do is learn how to deal with it in an appropriate way. So that's sort of what the Peacock card is coming through with. It was also coming through with like having compassion for others who are going through pain as well. Or perhaps even like somebody who caused you pain in the past, right? Like because it's coming through with this energy of like, if somebody has hurt you in whatever way that is, most likely is like part of the healing process includes acknowledging that that person who caused you harm has also encountered or experienced that pain to them, and they perhaps haven't healed from it. So because it's kind of like, if we don't heal things that are painful, or if we don't heal our own wounds, then there's a risk of us causing pain to other people, right? Like the saying, like, hurt people hurt other people. So it's coming through like that, where maybe like you're revisiting a past relationship or something like that caused you pain, and being able to see how that person perhaps also went through something painful, and that's why they caused you pain because they haven't healed from that, or something like that. So it could be something like that. It doesn't have to be that exactly, but it's just something to keep in mind. With the oyster card coming through next, though, I feel like this is talking about like an inner treasure, because with the oyster and like the pearl is something that is created, like this gem, a treasure that is created from difficulty and hardship. So I feel like it's like highlighting whatever this pearl is for you, because it could be something where it's like you're experiencing something of like a revisiting a pain that you've healed from, is kind of how it's coming through. And through that healing, you've created some sort of pearl, or you've gained some sort of wisdom, whatever the pearl represents to you. Could be like an actual thing, or creation, or product, or art even, or some sort of creation is how it's coming through, that you created through your experience of pain. And I feel like there's something important about like sharing that, or it's like, it's kind of like encouraging you to share that, because the cards that are coming out here, you have here the fault line, which I'm associating with this oyster of like cracking something open to reveal this beautiful energy, which is the Eternal Child and the Nectar card. So both of these are just like so much joy and happiness. With the Nectar, it talks about like healing, a healing energy that like rejuvenates and brings life, and to me, it's just representing like a healing energy, especially with the Eternal Child, because it could be something like a childhood wound or something like that. But because it's coming out with the Eternal Child, this is sort of, I'm seeing this as being like the healed inner child, because it's not coming out as the orphan card, which is the wounded child. So I feel like there has been healing in this situation, whatever it is. I feel like as well, though, it's specifically trying to focus on like something that was created as a result of that. So you have here the Seven of Materials, which is talking about sort of like focusing in on the work, right? Like doing some sort of work. It could be a task. It could just be like something that you've been focused on. It could be representing like you've been focused on healing something. I'm actually also seeing that you've like made it through some sort of, you've made it past some sort of threshold perhaps that you've been waiting for, but perhaps you haven't noticed that because you've been focused on something like some sort of task. It's also wanting to, because I feel like this is an energy of like somebody just sort of working on something independently, not really focused on sort of like what's around. But I feel like there's kind of like an energy here of the Two of Cups, that there may be a significant relationship that could benefit from your wisdom or your knowledge or like your experience in whatever this is, because it's kind of coming through as being like sharing what it is that you've been working on with somebody else who I feel like has been going through the same thing that you have just healed from is kind of how it's coming through here. I feel like there's also something about like with the portal for the small sun, it talks about like putting positive intentions into whatever it is that you're working on, because I feel like there may be an energy here of like, especially with the oyster, this can come through as being sort of like being reluctant to share what it is you've been working on. Perhaps someone's feeling like it's not significant, or that it wouldn't really make a difference, or like that kind of thing, when it's like the energy of the small sun is something where putting the intention of shining a light in sort of like the darkness, being a light in the darkness, even if it's small, even if the light that you're shining is small, it's still light in the darkness, if that makes sense. It has the potential to light up a very dark space with sort of like the energy or intention or positive outcome that, or the positive energy that you feed this light, whatever it is. And with it coming out with the Chariot, it's kind of like, this to me is talking about like sharing whatever it is that you've been working on, or shining this light, whatever it is. Especially just in the difference between these two energies, where this one's sort of like focused in on the work, so they're not necessarily projecting it outwards. So this is sort of a shift from that. It's also coming through here as being sort of like with the 9 of materials, like I see this card as being sort of like the law of attraction, that all the energy that you put out is also returned to you. And I feel like that it's kind of coming through that way, right? Like if you put positive intention that something is going to be successful, then that will be returned to you. If you if you have the intention or vibration that something's not going to make an impact, it's not going to be very important, it's kind of like whatever, like then that's what will be returned to you. So it's like putting the most positive, beautiful, warm intentions into something will make it so, is how it's coming through today. The next couple of cards you have out here. So you have here the Devil card. This is talking about the pain energy, right? Like, so it could talk about addiction. It could talk about that, but just in general, it's kind of talking about like whenever you encounter something painful, or that's something that you need to heal from, temporarily you can be in the state of like blocking yourself off from energies in order to heal. Like if you think about, if you break your arm, you put a cast on your arm to prevent yourself from using it or to cause further damage. So sometimes I see that in this card of like having a cast on the area that is needing healing. So it could be something like that. But once you're healed, you can take the cast off. So I feel like that's part of it. It's like maybe somebody was sort of in a period of like being in a quote unquote cast, or their energy was in a cast in some way in order to heal, but that the healing has taken place. So it's kind of like you're free to shine. Like you're free to take the cast off, if that makes sense. That's sort of how it's coming through today. And with the Magician card, it's also talking about like being able to create something as well. Like having all of this energy flowing again is kind of how it's coming through. However, there may be sort of like, next with the 5 of Voices, like this card talks to me about distractions of like, here's the goal, here's the thing that you're working towards, but being distracted by all of these energies, where it could be something like, if we're just keeping with that sort of like the broken arm kind of thing, having a cast on, someone may be feeling like reluctant to use their arm, or like to like do a lot of like strenuous activity or whatever, like being in a protective mode, even though there's been healing, right? Like your arm is healed now. You can like go off and do all the things that you've been not being able to do, but somebody may be just feeling really extra cautious, which is totally fine and normal. I feel like it's just bringing that to your attention because, again, with the small sun, it's like reminding yourself about the law of attraction of like whatever intention you put out into the world is what will be returned back to you. So if you're being very protective because, oh, like, what if I hurt my arm again? What if I do this bad thing? Whatever. Then that's what will be returned back to you. And so it does take sort of a bit of like practice in like putting really positive intentions out, like starting small, doing things step by step, like taking your time with things, but also gradually opening up or gradually getting back into the rhythm or that kind of thing. I feel like here because the next card out you have here is the fish card again. So you have the fish twice. The fish card talks about in this deck, like being sort of like caught in the current of something. And so to bring this energy into balance is like choosing a goal or setting a goal and completing it and following through with it, which can sort of bring structure into something that's like really free flowing, or that like if you feel like you're being like swept away or like that kind of thing, it's like setting a small goal and accomplishing it, perhaps to like bring back confidence or something like that. This card is really interesting because it talks about abundance, but it can also talk about like an excessiveness, especially highlighting like the other cards that are around it. So if the fish card comes out with like the sun, it's a really positive card because it's like an abundance of happiness and clarity and joy. But today it's coming through with the Five of Voices, which is kind of like perhaps like excessive worry or excessive or an overabundance of concerns, or being really protective of your energy, or being sort of like cautious maybe, perhaps. So that's just something to be aware of. And again, I'm not trying to pressure anyone into like doing things that you're not comfortable with. It's kind of just talking about like just being conscious of it and like starting small and taking little steps and being aware of the law of attraction, and putting out the best energy that you can at the moment, because that is what's being returned to you. The last couple cards that we have here are the Dragonfly. So this card talks about, it represents the mind, and mastery over the mind. It also talks about like ancient wisdom as well. I feel like there's something here about like that the mind is always shifting. And sometimes I see this as being sort of like having like moving very steadily and calmly through a shifting landscape is kind of how I see this card with the Dragonfly. Like it is a very peaceful energy. This one does talk to me about synchronicity as well, but it's also coming through with like hope and balance. Like mental balance. So there may be sort of like a situation where you may be feeling like, or being reminded of a past version of yourself that perhaps went through a lot of pain and comfort, or pain and then seeking comfort, which could have been sort of like in a devil energy kind of thing, like seeking comfort from pain in a way that perhaps was dependent on addictions in some way, that kind of thing. but there's always a balance, right? So being able to assimilate and understand why those experiences happened, not looking at sort of the past with judgment of self, like none of that, accepting and integrating all of the experiences that we go through. And I feel like there is a lot of fast movement happening here with the Eight of Wands. It's so interesting. The Eight of Wands to me is a fast moving energy, but there's snails at the top here, which is sort of coming through as a reminder that even little progress is progress, right? Like, movement doesn't always have to be fast. Walking is still getting somewhere, right? Like, I feel like it's coming through, like, it doesn't always have to be so quick and fast moving and exciting. It's like, if you're walking, if you're doing things one step at a time, that's still going somewhere. You're still going forward. I feel like there's just kind of an energy of like wanting to acknowledge perhaps like how far you've come, or like and it's coming through that way because I feel like maybe there's going to be a situation where you're being reminded of the beginning of something, or reminded of past pains or that kind of thing. But it feels like to me that you're at the end of, like, you have the pearl now, or you're about to get it, or it's like it's about to be revealed to you in some way. Okay, group 3, I'm gonna end it there. If this reading resonated with you, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. It helps so much. If you're interested in a personal reading, you can find the link in the description box below. Thank you for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.